I think I'm saying that we struggle all our lives to answer it. That it's the struggle that is important. That's what helps us to define our place in the universe.
This is Beverly, Dr. Beverly, Dr. Beverly Crusher.
Look where we are. Here, all of us, in this moment. So let's do what we spent our entire lives learning to be great at.
And this is Crusher Convo. And welcome to Crusher Convo, where we're crushing the conversation one episode at a time. We are heading to the stars through hardship as we discuss Season 2, Episode 2 of Strange New Worlds, Ad Astra Per Aspera. I have special guest, Star Trek editor and writer Jim Johnson. Thank you, Jim, for joining me tonight.
Hey, Jesse, thanks so much for having me on the show. I'm super excited to talk with you tonight about this.
Thank you so much. This is a favorite episode of mine of Strange New Worlds, so I cannot wait to discuss it. But before we jump right in, I am going to talk about my sponsor, Cherry Tree. If you use my code Crusher Combo 6, you will get 6% off your order if you buy a board computer, or if you buy a Klingon keyboard, or even a little figurine of a cat on a board cube. 6% off your order by going to mycherrytree.com and follow them on the socials at Cherry Tree Incorporated. So I wanted to do that real fast. Now, Jim, I have a question for you. What is your trek and why?
My trek is Star Trek Deep Space Nine, and it is my trek because even though I grew up on reruns of the original series and I was there for the original broadcast of The Next Generation, it was Deep Space Nine that really expanded the Star Trek universe into where they had non-Starfleet characters as main characters on the show, and it just opened up so much more of the setting and of the universe in ways that Next Gen did not, and the original series, of course, did not. So I think the whole Cisco as the emissary, religious Bajoran angle really added another layer to Star Trek that we hadn't really seen before, at least on a consistent week-to-week basis. And I think that cast was fantastic. I think the writing was great, and I just loved the fact that it was something different, right? It wasn't another show on a ship. It was in a station. The adventure came to them instead of them going to the adventure every week. And that one has stuck with me for all these years now.
Nice. Now, Deep Space Nine seems to be the winner this season. It has been the most my trek with all of the guests that I've had on the show. And I had a hunch just by your hat.
Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, and the Dodgers just won the World Series, so thank you for wearing a baseball hat. Have to throw that out there. But we're not here about Deep Space Nine. We are here about Strange New Worlds. And of course, as we were saying, it is Ad Astra Per Aspera. And I want to go ahead and start this off with a clip from the episode.
20 years for lying on an application?
You decided to fight back and not make this easy for them. They want to make an example out of you.
What do we do?
We fight.
Who's first on their witness list?
Admiral Robert April.
April sponsored my application to the Academy. I served under him for years, and he promoted me. This is good for us, no?
No, Basak wouldn't bring a friendly witness without a strategy.
Put me on the stand. Let them see that being an Illyrian doesn't change who I am as an officer.
You're being funny. You were never funny.
I know it's normally not a good idea, but shouldn't they see me a successful Starfleet officer? It's a good story.
Your story doesn't matter to their case. You broke the law. I put you up there, they'll just use you to corroborate their facts, or worse, to tear you down or likely bring down a bunch of your so-called friends.
So here are some facts about the episode. The air date was June 22nd in 2023. It was directed by Valerie Weiss. Star date 2393.8. Written by Dana Horgan. The year was 2259. And of course, like I said earlier, episode 2 of season 2. So my question for you, Jim, is when you saw this episode, what was like your first thoughts or reaction of just where they were going with this, right? Like, augments and the, genetics and all that stuff has been a very big topic in the Star Trek lore. And here they are bringing it in with, Una being an Illyrian. So what were your thoughts? Did you think, oh my gosh, it's just another genetic story, or did you like the different angle that they were headed?
No, I really liked it. I think having watched the first season and seeing the threads that they were starting to build in with Una illustrating her abilities and like, oh, what's going on here? There's more here than what meets the eye. I knew that they were going to have to address that at some point, right? I didn't realize it was going to be so early in season 2, but I'm glad it was so early in season 2 because obviously, she gets arrested at the end of season 1, right? Yeah, and so they needed to address it sooner than later. And I thought it was really well done. I think the writing was really sharp. And having just rewatched it to prepare for this conversation, I appreciated all over again how many layers there were to the story, right? It wasn't just Una going through her trial, like her friend, the lawyer had things going on, and Pike had things going on, and I think it was really well done.
Absolutely. It definitely does follow in really big stories like we got in Measure of a Man, for Data's rights. And of course, Bashir, we found out was augmented. But even episodes like TNG, even though I'm not a huge fan of this episode, it still brought it to light, which was the Masterpiece Society, where they were all modified to be a specific type of person, whether they were really good at engineering or good at law or whatever, and they all fit together. However, if they were apart, they had missing pieces, right? They couldn't really survive without each other. But this was a bit different in the sense that this really showed the discrimination that Una, suffered as a child. And again, this was not her choice. She did not make the choice to be augmented. This was totally against, how she was born. And so I loved how they used that as, we got to follow the law. And she's like, yeah, well, slavery was once a law, you know what I mean? But that changed. Yeah. And so, Nira, of course, was her former friend and the civil rights lawyer, which I kind of find a little funny because I know Gene Roddenberry was very against conflict, right? Like by the time of TNG or even TOS in some cases, there was no conflict, right? Everyone's in harmony, but it's hard to make drama without conflict. So there's Klingons and then there's Ferengi. Okay, whatever. But in this sense, this was something that they did, right? This all goes back to the Khan days, even way before that, right? So I loved where they were headed with this. And of course, Pike is in her corner. I mean, tracked down Nira in a planet he couldn't even breathe in just to, try and get her to help. Now, I do find it interesting because with Una, she's still very much like, I'm innocent. They can't do this to me, blah, blah, blah. But she was so still supportive of the Starfleet, even though they were basically trying to prosecute her on the stand. So what were your thoughts on Una still just seeing Starfleet on this high pedestal, even though they were really just trying to destroy her?
Yeah. It's a great character element of hers that even though she was literally being put on trial, like she still had so much faith in Starfleet. And she turned herself in, right? Probably partly with the faith that it was going to work out one way or the other. Like somehow Starfleet would see it through and hopefully make the right decision. But it shows just how much optimism is still present in Star Trek, and I think that's something that a lot of television, and just the world in general right now doesn't have a lot of, and we're trying to make it better. But somehow Star Trek, after 60 years, still has the through line of optimism and hope and positivity. And I think the fact that Una embodied that, like throughout the series, but also throughout this episode, like she was preparing to lose her career in Starfleet, but she was still had a high deal of belief in the organization that it could be better, right? And maybe if she had to sacrifice herself to help make it better, then so be it. She was willing to do it, and that's really inspiring to see people that are willing to do that, because we don't see a lot of that right now, right? In current politics, we don't see a lot of people willing to sacrifice themselves for the greater good.
And I mean, it wasn't even just her career. She was sacrificing her life because they were hitting 20 years in a penal colony, right? Just because she lied about who she was. So it was definitely a gamble for her. Real fast, we have Trekkie Gamer saying howdy. Hello. Thank you for joining. I know Thursday is very busy with Trek shows on YouTube, so I appreciate anyone who's watching right now. Trekkie Gamer also says extraordinary writing and acting in this one. Absolutely. Like, Nira, fell in love with her the moment Pike collapsed on her floor in her office. Like, I was like, I like her. I want her to be back. We only have like a season and a half left, so I'm hoping she makes an appearance. But, one thing that Nira, as much as she hated Starfleet, right? Because she grew up. Everything that Una was saying on the stand, she was there. She saw it. That, best friend's cousin, that was her cousin, right? And so, she always had this, I guess you could say, hatred towards Starfleet because of how badly they were discriminated. But she wanted to, all right, Una has faith in them and we're going to figure that out. And she well played. Like, even Una at the end was all like, I see what you did there. And it was so true. But she definitely showcased that the Federation and Starfleet is not perfect. Like, it has a lot of flaws. They always have. We saw it in TNG. Admirals making bad decisions, even just making bad decisions about, pre-warp societies. And even her grilling April, it was like, well, why is this okay, but this isn't? Like, there's a fine line there. Like, we got to figure out why this and that. So I do enjoy how they played that out. And I think Rebecca Romaine did a fabulous job. This really showed her chops. I mean, it's, obviously she's been in the Marvel universe for decades, but this really showed her on a different level with that. Was there anything, though, especially in the trial, that really stuck out to you that you were just like, wow, in that moment?
I think it was just the writing overall. Like, when she was grilling April, right? It's like, okay, where's this going? She's really leaning hard on April, but clearly she was making a point. It was like, wow, there was a lot of really good writing there. And then April even had to stand up at the end of his segment to kind of defend himself and say, hey, I was doing these things for a reason. Don't put me on trial, but here's why I was doing it. And even though that whole section was stricken from the record, right? I think Neela, right? She was starting to make her point in her argument. But I think more than anything else, it was just the writing throughout that whole trial scene. Because, trial scenes are tricky, right? Because it's people in a room talking. It's like 12 angry men, 12 angry jurors. How do you make that dynamic and interesting when it's literally people sitting in a room talking, right? And I think the acting and the writing were really, really well done. I think one thing that struck me was I almost wondered, having watched it again, if Una knew the statute that Neela was going to do, about requesting asylum, requesting I'm not safe, I need asylum, because she was using the very specific words right out of the legal text, right? Because they did the little flashbacks to show the one-to-one connection, and I almost wonder if she kind of set that up. But I was thinking about it, I was like, no, maybe it wasn't quite that on the nose. Maybe she was just telling the truth of what was happening to her. But I almost wondered if there was like another layer of subtext there where Una knew the legal portions of it and was right. It was specifically putting, dropping those words in to make it clear. And then Neela picked up on it. But I'd probably have to watch it again to see if I got the nuances right.
Yeah, because I just actually watched this like just before this live because I wanted to keep it fresh in my memory.
Right, yeah.
I don't think Una knew, because when she was in the transporter room with her, she was all like well played. Like, she like, I can't believe you were able to do that. But see, Nira did. She was like, since she figured out that Una is the one that leaked herself, right? Turned herself in. She knows exactly what they went through. She was like, Una's gonna speak the truth. Like, that's the whole point. She wanted to be herself. She didn't want to hide anymore. She was going to speak the truth. And so she knew exactly what Una was going to do and how she was going to play it perfectly. And like the Trekkie Gamer says, yep, she played them like a harp.
Yeah.
So true. I mean, no matter what they were doing, including that Vulcan, which I hate that guy. Oh my gosh. Like, I was just like, ooh. Anyways, even Patel doesn't like him, right? You could tell she was just like, "Ugh, I can't stand this guy."
Right.
But even though he was straight up all like, nope, she needs to go to prison, all this stuff that's logical, whatever.
Mhm.
Even he didn't see that coming. And this is their law. Like, that's the whole
Mhm.
point. You guys have laws, you follow the laws, and this is your law. Like, literally what you guys stand for, and what Una totally had the hope of Starfleet. Like, she's all like, Una believes in you guys. She's doing this on purpose for you guys to do the right thing, even though I'm not a fan of you. That's just, how this is going to play out. Were you surprised though that Una turned herself in, that it was her that started this whole thing?
Oh gosh, I'd have to. I can't remember what mindset I was in 2 years ago when the episode aired. And speaking of which, how can it be 2 years already? Right? When you put up that graphic about when the episode originally aired, it was like, really?
I
It's been
know.
2 years? Holy cow! Where's the time gone?
Well, we
But
waited a year and a half for season 3. So.
yeah, yeah.
Darn strikes.
Well, I think when La'an went to Nira saying, "Hey, I want to help," it was like, did La'an turn her in? I don't think so. And then you just kind of like work through the list of people, like the suspects. I think probably in the back of my head, I suspected that she probably turned herself in, but I was trying to figure out why. Like, why would she do that? And I think it wasn't until actually watching the episode and getting into it and realizing just how firmly of a like how firmly Una believes in Starfleet. It was like, oh, she turned herself in. But I think it was probably a little bit of a surprise because I think I got so into the moment, right? I was just focusing on what was happening as opposed to like trying to project ahead. What about you? Were you surprised by it?
I was a little bit.
Yeah.
I was a little bit. I thought I was kind of on the track of La'an, like, oh no, La'an accidentally leaked it, right? Because at the end of season 1, Pike just barely found out, La'an just barely found out, and then all of a sudden she's arrested, right? So I was like, oh no, she kept the secret for so long. She told her 2 best friends, and then all of a sudden it got leaked and they found out about her. Something must have happened, and then it kind of made you start questioning about the personal logs, because she's all like, I did a personal log, which is supposed to be a diary, right? This is your personal log, your thoughts, your whatever. And it was violated in a way, and she was afraid that that's what happened.
Yeah.
Now, Nira even said, like, well, it still takes 6 months for them to even obtain a personal log, and they have to have a very good reason. So she's like, you're fine, because it only had been 4 months, I think is what they said in the stand.
Yeah.
But I was a little surprised when they heard about Una doing it, but I feel like she did it to protect them, because she finally is telling Pike and La'an, yes, this is who I am, but she didn't want them to get caught in that lie. She didn't want their careers to be in jeopardy because of her. And so she's like, I'm just going to go ahead and turn myself in to protect them. And, hopefully they won't find out that it's been 4 months. But really, it was only 4 months. It wasn't like 4 years, 40 years, whatever. It was only 4 months. Like, what if he was trying to decide? Like, I don't know. I feel like that wasn't that long of a time for him to be all like, how dare he not say anything? But again, Una always put other people before herself, to the point that she was going to be spending 20 years in a penal colony.
Yeah.
Now, Tricky Gamer says, Tricky Gamer is kind of long. Call me Patrick. Well, hello, Patrick. Thank you. And says the time went into a cliffhanger and that La'an wasn't at all about the discovery. So yeah, she wasn't at all. And, but I loved how Nira, I mean, I guess just because of, all the work she had been doing, trying to get Illyrian's justice and things like that, she just knew the game. She just knew how this was going to play out. Now, of course, she had an end game. She wanted the Illyrians to have a step ahead of what they've been going through. And unfortunately, it didn't play out that way. And, Una even mentioned that at the end. But at least Nira was like, but it's still a step in the right direction, which I think still plays a part in, because like Bashir is what born I don't know, 50 plus years later or something like that and he was genetically modified. So clearly this is still going on even after the whole Una thing, but his parents were arrested.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Starfleet didn't even learn from the Una stuff, even though she was a beacon of Starfleet hope, and so going back to all that, it's like, again, Starfleet has a lot to learn, still has a lot to figure things out and stop making these stupid mistakes.
Right.
Una even said, I saw so many different species and everything working together that I wanted to be like that. Right? Like we could all come together with one common goal and be able to do things together. And sometimes I feel like Starfleet or the Federation forgets that. Like the whole IDIC just kind of slips through their fingers, even though that's the whole thing what Star Trek is all about, is IDIC.
Yeah, absolutely. And isn't that a reflection of where we are now, right? In society is I mean, I know Star Trek's not necessarily a U.S. centric show anymore, but sometimes I think America loses sight of itself. And some of our government officials lose sight of the bigger picture, and it's like we can be better than what we are right now, and sometimes we lose sight of that, and sometimes we need an outsider to hold up the mirror and say, did you read your foundational documents? Why aren't you living up to these? Because you could be so much better. And I think Starfleet and the Federation need those reminders sometimes. Not just because it makes good drama, but also just because in the reality of the setting. There is no perfect union, and I think we even see that a little bit in DS9, right? When there's that conspiracy on Earth, and they need to be reminded that they can be better than what they are. I mean, we see it in a lot of different shows, but I think this is another good example of somebody outside the Federation going, all these laws that you hold so dear,
Here you go.
A lot of nuance here you need to work on.
For sure. Now, Patrick says Starfleet can be a little dense.
Yeah.
And that goes on for hundreds of years. I mean, we even see it in Star Trek Picard. Where it's just like they put themselves on a pedestal. Now, I know Una did, but that was just because she went through so much. She was looking at a beacon of hope, and that was Starfleet. But they put themselves on this pedestal of like, we can do no wrong. But they make mistakes all the time, which is fine. Like, we make mistakes and we learn from them, but I feel like sometimes they drop the ball and don't learn from them. And it takes people like Picard or Cisco or whoever, or even in this case, Una, to like, they're showing them the mirror of like, hey, this is why this is wrong and we should do it this way. Now, Final Frontierman has just entered the chat, says that seems to be what the Picard era Starfleet was all about. It seems to reflect the current turn away from diversity and acceptance in U.S. politics. And also continues to say it does make a logical progression from the near doomsday scenario of the Dominion War, but it's shocking that they were so scared that they started to lose their direction. So perfect timing, Final Frontierman, because I mentioned about Picard. And Chuck's in the chat. Hello, everyone. Thank you, Chuck, for joining us tonight. But
thanks for joining, everybody. And in fact, I almost wonder if we look even further ahead into the 32nd century, and we see Admiral Vance is a much more progressive admiral than what we've generally seen in a lot of Star Trek. He's not a badmiral or anything. And I struggle to remember if there were any bad Starfleet officers in the 32nd century. Of course, the Federation is different, right? Because it's been torn apart and is trying to rebuild. So I'm really curious to see what they do with Starfleet Academy next year. If it's more of a newly built, progressive, forward-thinking Federation, or if they're going to fall back and have some of these same kind of issues that we had in the 24th and 25th centuries.
That'll be interesting to see. Yeah. Now, I haven't gotten into Discovery yet because, I just started seeing Star Trek almost 4 years ago, so I've made my way through.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. I already knew about the Admiral and all that stuff, so it's fine. Okay. I'm not a big deal about spoilers. I'm not River Song, so it's all good. But I haven't gotten to Discovery yet, but I know of the story, and yeah, it's interesting because they're all playing different parts in different areas of the story. You know, one thing I love about Star Trek is that it's not just about like Picard or Kirk, even though I know Strange New Worlds is doing a lot about Kirk, but that's another conversation. Unlike Star Wars, where it's always about the Skywalkers, and it's like, okay, there's other things happening. Like let's move on. Let's go to Andor, right? So, I do like that they spread out because there are other admirals or other officers or other captains that are upholding that amazing, idea that even Archer fought for. Like it was the beginning of all of it, right?
Yeah.
And again, going back to with Nira being like, here's your rule book, seeking asylum, all of that stuff. This is exactly why Pike shouldn't get in trouble, because he did exactly what you expect a captain to do. And one thing I will add, as much as Marie, she understood that Una is Pike's best friend, and she really wanted to help her but she felt that she had no case. Like they're gonna throw her under the bus and tuck her away and all that stuff. So this was her best option, was to take the plea deal. And of course she doesn't. That's why she was a little disappointed. But the moment she started reading that rule book, she saw where she was going, and that smirk was like, I like you.
Yeah.
She was like, I know what you're doing, and I accept. Like, and that was absolutely awesome. And before we continue with that, I do want to do a little clip of that speech.
Captain Patel, are you familiar with the Starfleet Code 8514?
I am.
Would you mind reading that code for the court?
In extraordinary and extreme circumstances, if the following conditions are met: 1. Any person fleeing persecution.
We were persecuted. I remember when the attacks began.
Or fearing for their life due to political or religious beliefs, cultural engagements, or biological truths may. 2. Seek safety within Starfleet.
I thought maybe if they did, I would finally be safe. We feared for our lives.
And 3. Upon revealing themselves to authorities and making request, may be granted asylum.
I turned myself in. I wanted my crew to know me for who I really was.
Starfleet captains must exercise discretion and judgment when offering asylum. Status is confirmed by a Starfleet tribunal or designated authority.
Fearing for their life. One may seek safety within Starfleet and request asylum. Starfleet has a long tradition of performing rescue missions. How many distressed peoples has Starfleet aided? How many lives saved? Una Chin Riley knew this. She believed in the best of Starfleet, and that through it she could find salvation from the hardships and danger of her everyday life. Danger she faced just for being born an Illyrian. Dangers born of prejudice, spurred on by laws against people like her. But through her hardships, Una sought the stars. She joined Starfleet because she believed it was the only thing that could save her life. She fled persecution, and within Starfleet, she sought safety. And then, by turning herself in, Una fulfilled the third and final requirement for asylum. She asked for it, and Captain Pike granted it. Like all good Starfleet captains, including Admiral April on Perican, Narelle, and Manus II, he exercised his judgment and gave her asylum. All this tribunal needs to do now is confirm that status to absolve them both. Do you know why I love the law? Because a law is not a mirror to society. A law is an ideal, a beacon to remind us how to be our better selves. And you have the opportunity today to do just that.
Forgive me if I say her name wrong. I think it's Yatiti Badaki, I believe. Horrible. I'm very bad at pronouncing names. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Like what she portrayed here, it was just, this role was meant for her. I would love to have the honor to ever talk to her on my show, but I think that whole speech, and like I said, there's Mattel with that smile,
Mhm.
and then there was that moment Una's like, wait, now I know what you're doing. And it was like, do the right thing, follow your own rules, and do the right thing, which they ended up doing.
Yeah.
But I absolutely just loved that. Now, Patrick does say an admiral who wants to actually help the people who serve under him love Vance. So he's talking about from Discovery. So again, what were your thoughts at the end of her whole closing argument? That whole speech that she did with that giant rule book in her hand and basically, sticking it to the man.
No, yeah, I think it was great. I think that whole trial had so many layers to it, but like the fact that it all came together right there at the end, and she was able to really effectively drive home the point she was making and tie it in. I mean, clearly, if we assume that she and Una didn't collaborate ahead of time to kind of like put the dots together, the fact that she was able to take the testimony from Una and fold that right into the existing legal statutes and just illustrate it all together. I think just a great piece of writing, I think, and the acting and the direction just really well done. And it just it reminded me when Pike was saying at the beginning of the episode that she's one of the best litigators in the quadrant, right, or in the galaxy. And I think she really illustrated it at the end. It's one thing to have somebody say somebody's really awesome, but then to be able to actually portray that is really nice to see that kind of payoff. So I think it was really fun. I hope we see her again, but I'm trying to think. We've only got like 15 shows. When are they going to fit her in? Other than to maybe do a little mention of her addressing some of the other Illyrian cases that Pike mentioned were on hold or whatever. So I'm not sure we'll get to see her again in Strange New Worlds. I hope we do though, because she's really, really great actress.
I know. I absolutely adore her. Now, this kind of just came into my thoughts as we were talking. If anyone remembers the movie Signs, M. Night Shyamalan's movie, and that's kind of the same. Everything happens for a reason. Like you remember the water, the brother being a good batter and all that stuff. The boy not, having asthma. They all played a part. So when the alien came to get them, it all fit. The water was everywhere. He was able, and that's kind of what I see in this ending is where she was like, she had everything set up so perfectly just to get Una exonerated, right? And that's kind of what it reminds me of. Patrick says, Signs, criminally underrated flick. I love that movie. I really do. I mean, it almost seems very, just like, oh, it's another alien movie, whatever. But the story, top notch. The Village, not so much. But Signs, good job.
I just recently rewatched Unbreakable and forgot just how good that movie was. There's so much in it. Really well done.
Sixth Sense. I mean, all those first ones were awesome. But again, it all played a part, even with the Sixth Sense, where you look back, you're like, oh my gosh, he was a ghost the whole time. You didn't even notice it. And I was like, that's just amazing. And that's exactly what they did here. Yeah. And I believe who was it again that show this real fast? The one that wrote it. So Dana Horgan, just brilliant. Like it's just absolutely perfect storytelling. And it's something in Star Trek that I love so much. And I kind of wish I grew up with the franchise, but I'm glad better late than never. And I feel like I've learned so much, just even what I've seen now, I think
one of the other things to mention, I think, is I really appreciated some of the little bits of humor that were dropped into the episode as well, just to kind of provide
Balance
a
it.
balance between the heavy courtroom drama, like that scene in the cafeteria where the Spock is sitting with the Vulcan admiral, and they're just like staring at each other, and they're being observed by
Ortegas and Mbenga.
Ortegas
Yeah.
and Benga, right? And they're like, look at that, they hate each other, and they're like, what? And then Spock comes over and apologizes for the outburst. I was like, what? There's no outburst, but it was just a nice little bit of subtle humor there that I really thought helped balance out the episode.
Yeah, I mean, even in the clip that I showed where Una is talking to Nira and she's like, "Are you being funny? Because you're never good at being funny." Like just those little moments where it's just like, that's hilarious. Or even just Patel smirking, right? Because you're like, she got him. Now, the Final Frontiersman says in the chat, the episode was wonderful and I loved how they so cleverly resolved the trial. It was believable conclusion to the dilemma. I would love to see another trial or JAG style series to dive deep into all the great moral dilemmas and the prime directive conflicts and violation that pop up over the series. I know a lot of people have mentioned, especially a JAG series type Star Trek, which I think would be really interesting. I mean, we had it with Measure of a Man that Melinda Snodgrass had written, and it was really wonderfully done. And they also had little funny tidbits here and there, but though that doctor guy, I hated him, but then, so I wasn't really too upset when he got murdered in Picard. I was like, well, whatever. But Patrick also says, didn't realize you were so new to Trek, Jesse. Welcome aboard. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And then also says, NCIS Starfleet, I'm there. Yeah. Everyone has been saying that. And you know what? I say, Scott Bakula should be part of NCIS Starfleet, like, I don't know, grandfather of Archer or something like that. Or later on, children, his generation.
Yeah, or maybe they do Archer as like a Federation West Wing kind of a thing with him as the president of the Federation. He's doing the whole politicking thing, and then they can have a separate series with NCIS or JAG Starfleet. Yeah, maybe CCH Pounder would be a great admiral for that. I don't know.
I would love. Oh my gosh, they were so good together in New Orleans. Totally was a fan. Well, do you have any final thoughts of the episode before we get into our tricorder rating of anything that you wanted to add to this episode?
Yeah, I think I really appreciated this episode because it pulled on some of those threads that had been started earlier in the earlier season, and then just brought it to a really set, like a Final Frontiersman said, it came to a really satisfying conclusion for those threads, and then they kind of went on from here, right? And I just think that shows really good writing, and it shows a lot of faith in the cast and the crew in the early years of Strange New Worlds. I think they really hit the ground running. And, unfortunately, the writer's strike really hurt season 3, I think. But at least that season 1, season 2 was cooking on full, full thrusters, full impulse. And this is just a really good episode that just tied it all together and just kept things moving. So, yeah, I just, A+ for me. But what are your thoughts?
Oh, I agree. And yeah, I don't think the writer's strike helped season 3 at all. We had some good episodes, and then we didn't have so great episodes. But one thing that I will say about Strange New Worlds, there's always been a conflict when it came to continuity and episodic, right? So it's like, DS9 was very good. Like, they had episodic episodes, obviously, but they had this continuing storyline throughout the series. While TNG was very heavily episodic. What I like about Strange New Worlds is how they could be episodic, but the continuity of the character stories continues. So just in the sense that Una saved Batel from the Gorn stuff, like continuing that whole Illyrian, her being augmented and stuff like that had a purpose later on. And so I liked how they have continued that. And I wonder if they would continue it even more, or they might be all like, okay, we're done with the Illyrian stuff, or maybe something else might happen and they do bring back Nira, right? So I do enjoy that. But for this one, it was hard hitting. ground running, like just went all out. And I think they did a beautiful job. And I think it was Badecki, I believe her last name is. Like, I think she just played the part so beautifully that you were rooting for her. Like I said, the moment Pike collapsed on her office floor.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think that is what I love about it. Now, Final Frontiersman said it was a fun listening in the discussion, but work calls. I'll check on the rest of the video later. LLAP. Thank you for joining us tonight. Really appreciate it. Patrick also says they're pitching that idea of President Archer calling it Star Trek United. And I actually like the idea. I think that would be a really interesting series. I'm not really thrilled about that whole Star Trek Year One. I think we need to put Kirk to bed. I think we've done a lot of Kirk.
We have had a lot of Kirk. Yeah, I remember that. Go ahead.
Not a Kirk or Spock hater, but I'm saying again, there's other stories like, I don't know, Beverly Crusher. But anyways, well,
there's been a lot of Kirk. In fact, I really like the meme that's been going around. It's a mock-up of a Star Trek novel cover, and it's Kirk and Pike on the cover, and the title of the book is "Why Are You Always on My Ship?" It's just so funny. It's like, yeah, why is Kirk on the ship all the time? It's like, okay, why are you still here
every time? Well, I mean, he was in that episode where it was the Jonathan Frakes one where they were in the holodeck, and I was like, anyways, that's again a whole other discussion. Have no time.
Yep.
But here is our tricorder rating.
My tricorder.
So 5 whole votes that I got over at my Patreon page. So I had 1 to 5. So 5 Illyrian Genetics is, top notch, best episode. 4 Starfleet Code 8514. And then we have 3 Asylums and 1 to 2 Court Martials. So no one voted for 1, 2, or 3. So everyone's like, nope. It's definitely not a bottom of the barrel episode, but we did get 40%, which is 2 votes that are for Starfleet Codes 8514, and 3 votes, the 60%, went to 5 Illyrian Genetics. So how would you vote for this episode, 5 obviously being the greatest?
Yeah, I'd put it right in between 4 and 5, like 4.5. I think solid outing, absolutely. I think the nature of the episode limited how much you could have the other characters do, right? So it was really more focused on Una and Pike to a lesser extent, but you can't really, it's hard to do an ensemble show when you're doing a courtroom drama because you need to have the guest actors in there to be the prosecution and the defense attorneys. So I call it a solid 4.5.
No, that definitely makes sense. I mean, they were all just kind of watching in, like watching court TV in the observation lounge. But I definitely give it a 5. It is literally one of my favorite, probably overall Star Trek episodes. Now, again, I haven't gotten to Discovery and, haven't finished Enterprise, but I'm almost there. But I think solid storytelling, the way from start to finish, it was very smooth, no bumps, no like, oh, that wasn't needed. Like sometimes that can happen when they're really trying to do typically with filler episodes, and fortunately only 10 episodes per season, you can't really have filler episodes. But I think this one really hit the mark on all levels, especially for Nira. So I definitely give it a 5. Patrick also gives it a 5 and says it's a hard choice. I didn't see fractions on the list.
I cheated.
It's okay. It's allowed for the guest of the night. Okay. So, but he does say Jim kind of dodged the bullets.
Yeah. I mean, if you really put me to it, I'd call it a 5. And in fact, I should probably call it a 5 because we only have 10 episodes a season. I think if this was a traditional, next gen DS9 Voyager season where we had 25, 26 episodes to play with, this would be, on the upper end, but not the best, right? But given that we've only got 10 episodes to work with, this is certainly top tier.
Oh, absolutely. So now I get to talk about what my next episode is going to be, and I have special guests Ollie and Avery who will be joining me, so we get to find out what episode they are with the Sickbay Spinner. look, we're heading back to season 3 of Picard with 17 seconds, which is an absolute joy of mine. Very, very heavy hitting Picard and Beverly scenes in that episode. And it's actually perfect timing because I just interviewed Olivia Youngers. She's in that episode. That was the first episode she was in. So there you are, Ollie and Avery. You got 17 seconds. And again, you know, you almost got Jaws and Shaw. Like it was a hair off from that one. So I hope you're not disappointed. Okay.
It's all Star Trek. It's all love. So anything's good. I think we got a good one here in Ad Astra Per Aspera. So.
No, absolutely. I totally get it. I mean, I'm a huge Jaws fan and I love the behind the scenes of how Shaw is connected to that. So I was like, I got to do an episode, but I have to have like a guest who really likes Jaws as well. So I was like, I hope you're not a huge Jaws fan because that was so close. But you know what? Now I'm actually just going to go ahead and jump into my redhead alert. Don't forget, guys, it is giveaway time over at Crusher Combo. Once I get to 1,000 followers on Instagram, so I can go live again, for goodness sakes, and 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, just because that would be cool, I will be doing a giveaway of an autograph of Gates McFadden to a very special listener. So please spread the word and share my content to help me reach my goal. And don't forget, you can submit a penny for your thoughts by recording off crushercombo.com a 60 to 90 second clip, or you can email me your clip or your thoughts to crushercombo@gmail.com. You can also, DM me or comment me on socials of whatever thoughts you have on the next episode, and I will announce your penny live on the air. And of course, my Patreon shoutouts go to Leslie and Dave, who are my Commander patrons, and Chuck and Engineer Mark, who are my Admiral patrons. If you'd like to support the podcast and enjoy exclusive extra content, just head over to patreon.com/Crusher Combo, and you can sign up for as low as $3 a month. All right, Jim, thank you so much for joining me tonight. Please let the listeners know where they can find you.
Yeah, thanks, Jesse. Thanks for having me on the show. I really appreciate it. This is great. As the project manager for the Star Trek Adventures RPG, I am everywhere online where the game is being talked about. So there's a fan Facebook group, there's a subreddit, and also Modifius's official Discord. I'm also on Blue Sky, so if you want to find me on Blue Sky, you can do that. But yeah, anywhere you're talking about Star Trek Adventures, I am present, and always trying to touch base with the fans and connect and just have fun with all the joy that is Star Trek. So thanks for having me. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for wanting to be on. I really appreciate that. And I thank Patrick and the Final Frontiersman and Chuck for joining us in the chat on a very busy Trek Thursday. But again, guys, I'll see you in 2 weeks. And tomorrow I will be dropping my interview with Olivia at about 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I will not be in the chat. I will be at a special event with my daughter. But please enjoy the interview. I really had a good time. We had a great chat. But anyways, guys, thank you so much. See you in 2 weeks and live long and prosper. Bye, guys.
Crusher out.